Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. We are in store for another Arts District special. I'm here with the owner of Rebar and Davey's, Derek Stonebarger. Thank you for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jake.
Dude, one of the faces of the Arts District. Always out there. Your face was in the news recently about the food truck park that they tried to do. Do you take pride in being like one of those faces for the art district? Seems like you become a little bit more vocal to represent a lot of the business owners down here.
Well, I just think it kind of comes with the territory. I wasn't obviously not the first business down here. There were some great ones, Velveteen and Hop Nuts and Makers and Finders. Lots of great businesses here before we moved in. But I think with my background, just coming from media, understanding maybe what the news might be looking for in terms of a sound bite or an interview that, and also being available really, like once the reporters started calling, hey, can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? And I'm like, well, I happen to be here, so sure, let's do it. And so once that started happening, during the pandemic, geez, there was so many stories that featured the Arts District or myself or Rebar or Davey. So I think it just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, I always wanted to move down this area. For probably about the first 3 years, I was trying to move into either the Arts District or the downtown area. I was supposed to move into Fremont 9. That was delayed because of the building structure. And then once I found the opportunity of Share opening up, I was like, I immediately need to move down here because I always felt like the culture was being built down here. Being born and raised out here on the east side, the east side of Vegas it's a lower middle class area, but there's a lot of culture down there. And I used to come down into this area when I was younger, in high school and in college for First Friday. And just always, it felt like Vegas. It didn't feel like when I worked on the Strip for 10 years and it was like that very touristy kind of like, not fake, but very superficiality attached to it.
Yeah. That's what I think makes the area unique. Obviously there's great deals in the area, but there's not much gaming either. So that's what kind of always drew me here, besides technically being an artist and just kind of loving the area. But it was really about a community that you could see it was spawn and it was happening. And so, just honored to be a part of it. And coming out of this pandemic, we're seeing record numbers. We're seeing hitting our occupancy almost every night now. We've been able to open 7 days a week, and these are all just signs that we've actually built a community, and that's pretty exciting to be involved in that.
Yeah, I just had Kristen from Tacotarian was just on here, and she was saying that they're hitting like record numbers too, at least for the capacity that they could in this time. And you even had Kamala Harris just down here, so that if the VP is just getting a recommendation to come down here, it's just going to bring even more attention to the area.
Yeah. It's such an exciting time to be involved down here, and kudos to you for moving into Share. This is and doing this. This is cool. It's a great building. It's exciting to have this many opportunities for new residents in the area. We haven't had that for a while. It's a great time to be in the Arts District.
So let's dive back a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your history. You mentioned that you were in TV and production. What were you doing before Rebar?
So, I guess I'll take you back to, I moved here the week of September 11th, 2001. So literally I accepted the job, I think on like September 3rd. Then you remember September 11th. And I remember calling Channel 8 is who hired me. And we flew out here and interviewed and I was literally fresh out of college, but I knew that I wanted to work in TV as a producer, as an editor. So when I accepted that job and I moved out here, it was about I got here on September 13th, approximately, maybe the 14th, and they had set me up for a week in the Tropicana. For a week, stay to get acclimated to the town. And as soon as, the town was just dead, right? Like the town stopped. I know that it's never really closed like it did in the pandemic, but it was dead. There was no one coming. All the flights had been stopped, I believe, and the airports were canceled. So the Tropicana upgraded me to a suite when they found out that I was working for Channel 8. I was like, man, I love this town. I only had like $100 in my pocket, and I turned that into like 2,000, and before I lost it all, and then had to eat like $2 hot dogs until I got my first paycheck. But yeah, that's what brought me here. Is Channel 8 hired me, and I worked for Channel 8 for a few years under some really talented people. George Knapp won an Emmy working under him with a promo that I made. Worked with Bob Stoddall and Las Vegas One, and then I went to basically to Fox 5, and then Cox Media, became the commercial production manager. And then all that was really leading up to, I wanted to make this film. That was kind of my dream. That's why I got into television, is because I had this idea to make this film about actually an artist, a painter called Caravaggio. And so I finally did that about 2008. And after that, I was just really, really done with production. I mean, it was brutal. So at the time I had started doing some marketing for a friend's bar and kind of helped bring that back. And then that's when I got in the bar industry, and he asked if I wanted to invest in Atomic Liquors. And so we brought that back. It was my first bar that I did, and it's been a huge success, and hopefully will never close, even though I'm no longer involved in it. But so that's kind of how I got into the bar business. And the next thing I did was Rebar.
So Atomic Liquors down on 9th?
Fremont. Yeah, 9th and Fremont.
Interesting. Haven't they been around? They've been around for what, 40 years or something like that? That's what the advertisement is on that.
Yeah,
website.
so the advertisements, those would have been all made by me. So it's actually opened in 1945 as a place called Virginia's Cafe. And then they started selling alcohol, probably not even with a legal liquor license at the time, but they also started watching the bombs explode on top. And so they started serving cocktails. And then in 1952, they launched as Atomic Liquors. So it's technically the oldest bar in Las Vegas. And the unique thing about it is but it closed. It closed for 2 years. And what I was going to say is the unique thing about it is when we brought it back, it had never been remodeled. So I walked a really thin line with my partners of trying not to change really anything. I mean, the popcorn ceiling was all original. We had to do some repairs, and then I wanted to put the sparkle back into it. So that was a lot of work, because they don't make machines like they used to that did that in the 50s. So yeah, so that's kind of the story of Atomic Liquors. And it's been open, I think we opened in 2013, and it's been, going, and I don't think it'll ever close again.
Yeah, so. It's a busy hotspot, especially with Life is Beautiful being right there, and it's part of Life is Beautiful. It kind of speaks to the ethos of downtown. And I've mentioned this a few times on the podcast. Vegas is really good at tearing down old shit and making it the new cutting edge technology. And that's more so on the Strip, right? Yeah. They tear down old hotels, or they tear out defunct restaurants or clubs or anything like that and repurpose it, right? I worked at Omnia. It used to be Pure for a lot of years, and come in and give it a massive facelift. But in downtown in the Arts District, it's really important to keep like those buildings intact. I mean, obviously Circo was just built as new, but it was the first hotel and casino in 30 years or something like that.
I think since.
But when you look at in the Arts District specifically, like all the old buildings are still intact. They just kind of change around some things on the inside. And that's what I think makes it beautiful, because it feels like old Vegas.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like the building that Rebar and Davey's is in right here on Main Street. These were built in 1945 as well. So, yeah, you're right. That's what makes this area real unique. And that doesn't really happen when if chains were to move into here, they would probably just demolish it and build their own, because they think it's cheaper. I mean, I don't think it's cheaper. I don't think destroying buildings is ever cheaper. But when you get into codes and trying to bring things up to codes and city requirements and whatnot, sometimes it is cheaper to destroy something. Mm-hmm. But I would never do it. I never want to be. I'm probably never going to build a new building in my lifetime that is for a business. I just won't do it. There's too many cool, unique buildings that are vacant, and when you start with a building, usually things will pop up around it if you can start your own community. That's what we did. I mean, when we took over on East Fremont, Atomic Liquors was the farthest thing down. I remember bringing my wife and her sister and some friends and walking with them. And and it was far to get to basically between 9th and 10th. It was far from the beat, which was there at the time. And now look at it. And the same thing when I came over here, sure, there was Velveteen and Hop Nuts and Makers and a few other places, all the antique stores. But we were kind of an island over here. But I knew it was coming. At least I believed it. And that's what's just exciting that we've been able to do that with East Fremont, with the project I was involved in, and then now here in the Arts District as well.
Yeah, and now it's getting a lot of government funding with the street project where they're resurfacing everything, and they built that arch right next to the Stratosphere, kind of being like, okay, now you're into the Arts District. And I wanted to I moved down here majorly for the podcast because I realized that the community down here, the business owners, the people who live here, it's like there's a lot of camaraderie. Everyone really believes in something, and you really just don't see that in a lot of other places just because there are community casinos in Vegas, right? There's like the M and there's Red Rock and Sam's Town. But it's kind of just like the strips culture just supplanted in that area. But it just feels really different down here.
Yeah. I mean, most of the businesses down here that all those casinos have, they have shareholders and they're publicly traded. None of us are. And when I talk about change, there aren't any change down here yet. I assume that they'll come at some point, but that's what makes us unique. Most of the people in this area, like myself, we cashed in our 401ks, or we spent our life savings and we put our chips on the table, really in a gamble that this is what we wanted to try to do with the rest of our life. And that's what makes us really, we're passionate. We don't always get along with each other. Sometimes many of my neighbors, will call me expletives at times, but other times we'll make up and hug. But we do that because in order for you to spend your life savings and come to Main Street, there's a lot of pressure, and you're a passionate and you're probably a very smart person to make it this far. So with all of those heads, sometimes they're going to butt, and but other times we all appreciate each other, and we all know that we share each other's customers, and that's what also makes us unique. We are not, as competitive as so many other places. Yeah,
the future is really about collaboration over like being hyper competitive. If you share the same customers, that's generally a good thing, right? And also with the way that business owners are advancing, you have to be approachable, right? Like how a lot of my generation, millennials and youngers, they want to see if the owner of a business has a podcast or if he's in the news. They don't want the owner to hide behind their business. That was kind of like the predatory practices of the yesteryears. But now it's like with social media, they want to see what you're about, and that like the owner's a direct representation of their business. And that's what I see out here is all the business owners are very approachable. They're in the foresight. They're doing podcasts like this, or they're out on the news, or they're hosting different innovative events like you guys did when coronavirus ended. You pivoted to, had it written down somewhere. It was like a liquor,
basically a bodega, an online bodega. So.
And that's the innovation out here. You were like, everyone was like, okay, we're in some sort of crunch and we got to figure it out. And you went out on the news and you're approachable and you figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, and that was survival mode. Honestly, I never expected that my business honestly could be shut down, and it really changed. It changed a lot of things, but I had this idea that like, hey, I know I can make this website. I know I can put it out there, start it, see what happens, and at least get a couple people back to work, and then it took off for 2 or 3 weeks or about a month. It was insane, but then as soon as things were lifted again, or liquor stores you could go back into liquor stores or whatever, then it went away. And I knew it wasn't like, it's not like I loved doing it, but we had to do it, and we were able to bring people back to work, and that's a reason why we're here today, because we did really whatever it took to try to survive this, so. It
really is about survival. And going back to the early days of the Arts District, before we started recording, you mentioned that you opened up Davey's was first, and that was about 5 years ago, correct?
So Rebar was first.
Okay.
Rebar was first, and then, it was just about 5 years ago. And it's funny, I was quoted in this Review Journal article. I just read it the other day because we're about to celebrate our 5-year anniversary. We're going to have a big event where everybody can come get free beer and chicken wings. But I had read that I had quoted in this article that 5 years from now, I believe that the arts district right around here will be hopefully the center of Las Vegas. It'll be for locals, and it'll be a real community built. And I mean, it's almost 5 years to the day. And coming out of this pandemic, I think we're proving that there is a real community down here, and it's just exciting to be involved in it.
So what is the image of Rebar? Before you had built it, what was like the idea behind it? What did you want it to represent, and the inside, like the thematics of it?
Well, honestly, after I did Atomic, and my wife and I, when we were first dating, we would always go out on Sundays. Sundays was our day to hang out, and we would go to actually bars that were in shopping malls with thrift stores, because we both liked to shop at thrift stores. And we both had, I had a new house and she had a new place, and so we were furnishing those or whatever, and it was our fun thing to do. And we were just like, man, imagine if there was a bar that you could shop at. And I've always flipped stuff my whole life. I flipped my first car when I was like 14, a 280Z, and I've always done that to make supplemental income. I don't come from a rich family or anything. I'm completely self-made. So it was always like, I want to maybe do this bar. And then what happened is I ended up getting cancer. So I had a tumor in my neck, and I had to get chemo and radiation. And when I realized, I honestly was thinking that I was going to die. So it kind of it freed me up to not be scared anymore, to sign a lease and it was like a last ditch effort to live my dream. And that's what I did. So I signed, at least a 10-year lease. Now it's longer because I've negotiated past that, but, and built Rebar even while I was going through chemo. And then when I beat cancer, it was just rewarding. It was, I have this dream bar, and then that's the thing. I didn't know if it was going to be a success. No one had ever done an antique store bar before, but it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot spot. So let me get this right. You were working on building Rebar while you were going through treatment?
Well, we signed on the line when I was going through chemo, and then once we signed on the dotted line and I put up some money, it was like, I'm going to go to work, because I didn't want to sit around anymore. But with a couple of my partners, I was literally doing chemo and jackhammering and
wow, that's really inspiring.
It all happened in that room, and it's turned out to be a great thing,
Yeah, they say when you're going through health complications like that, it's best to stay active, because how the body works, it really starts internally. If you think negative of having cancer, like, your body will react differently to it, and it's hard to pull yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that at all? Do you feel like your positive mindset helped push you through that?
Well,
treatment?
I just know that, at times I was scared and I thought I was going to die, but I also knew that I booked a party at Hop Nuts, a chemo party, and we shaved my head. That was my way of approaching it, was to use, comedy and confidence, even as fake as that confidence might have been. But to my friends and to my wife and say, hey, look, this is nothing, a lot of people beat cancer, so I don't know, maybe I think it probably helped staying positive, but I wasn't always positive. It's tough, it's a tough thing a lot of times when I wasn't working, I was just sitting there on the couch, like, in pain, so
I feel like it makes you feel really weak.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I couldn't eat anything. I had, because I was having radiation, you can't swallow. So I had it's kind of gross, but I had a stomach tube that I had to pour liquid in every day. So, and I got down to like 165, and I'm like 235 is my normal, my overweight.
Wow. Well, you've definitely recovered. And, there's a phrase I use all the time where I say, it's not how far you bounce or how far you fall in life. It's how high you bounce. How do you react to those detriments in life and respond. And you responded really well. And now you're on the upkeep.
I hope so. Yeah.
I do like the antique store bar model. My first business, I actually owned an antique store.
Really?
With my father. Yeah. I was we actually were trying to move down here. This was in 2017. But Main Street was still being worked on. Yeah. And when we were walking, because it used to be a 2-way street, yep. And then they were moving it to 1, and the rent was still high, but I felt like there was issue with people parking here and trying to get to the stores. That's why we ultimately ended up owning it by UNLV. It was called Next Gen Pickers. Huh. But the antique store model is awesome. Everyone loves antique hunting. My father does like storage wars and picking and all the art. It was called Next Gen Pickers. I was kind of like, I was the new generation. He was the old. So we were trying to like move the antique store into the next generation. But there's so many antique stores down here as well. And there's so many bars. You're literally like the combination of what everything is down here. Yeah.
No, it's and that was tough during the construction phase of the roadway. A lot of antique stores didn't survive, and there were plenty over on Commerce at the time that are no longer there. But now they've come back with other businesses. It's not. I wouldn't say fortunately they've come back, but because those other businesses are gone. But yeah, this has always been it's had several names: Arts District, Antique Alley. So, and then now they're going to be called the Brewers Row. So there's actually going to be 3 footprints, marketing footprints on top of each other right here. So, but yeah, it was tough getting through that, and we had opened during all of that, and we had to kind of battle through that. But we didn't know. We knew it was going to be good when we got through it, mm-hmm. and we knew it was going to be worth it. But it was painful. And, but I don't think that we would know that it was going to be like this good. So that's great.
Do you sell any antiques in the store, or it's just the decorations are all antiques?
Everything's for sale.
Really?
Yeah, everything in there. I always say even the bar's for sale. I mean, it's a big number, but yeah, no, everything. We've got like all the neon signs. We've got the original Olympic Garden sign from the OG right over here. OG they had to change their name from Olympic Garden because they got sued by the Olympic Council. So I have that sign. It's like the ultimate man cave sign if somebody's interested. The Zoltar machine in there is the one that was on Santa Monica Pier. It's spit out over 400,000 fortunes, and it's for sale inside of there as well. So even stuff that people bring in for consignment like that, we'll put a price tag on it, and eventually it'll sell.
Oh wow! That was gonna be my next question. Was it all handpicked, or do you do consignment as well?
I only have one item and maybe 2 items in there that are on consignment. One of them was the Zoltar because he wants $10,000 for it, and I couldn't afford it, but I definitely wanted to have this Santa Monica Pier one in there. So we worked a deal, and then I think maybe that's the only I've got a couple of Jesse Smigel's artwork like that. There's a moon face in the back, and there's a big cigarette. It was Jesse Smigel's the artist who did the cat over on First Street in the Arts District. So I've got a couple of his pieces on consignment, but everything else the business owns.
That's awesome. Do people come in and purchase stuff often, or is it kind of just like someone's drunk and they're like, "I'll give you $500 for this chair. I want it now."
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, sometimes we have people who are just. They see that there's antiques and they come in during the day. Those might be tourists or locals looking for something who are shopping the neighborhood. So we've got a lot of different customers. We've got people who have, one of our slogans is "Get drunk and buy shit." So
yes.
So we've got people who get drunk and buy shit. We've got a lot of cheap items too, $5 items everywhere. Those are kind of what go. But we've had some unique things happen. We had a guy once. Offered to buy the toilet for $2,500, and I was like, man. And he's like, "But I'm going to disconnect it right now." And I was like, "Damn, I'm thinking about it." But we ended up saying no. But we also had someone else buy a deer head, which I'm not into hunting. I don't do any of that. But I also come across weird taxidermy, and it's like, well, whatever. It's art. It's not like I killed it. I always put this out there because it's kind of weird to have taxidermy when I'm not really into killing a bunch of animals, but it's already been stuffed and everything. So we sold a deer head to somebody one time, and they were probably got too drunk at Dino's, and Dino's called us and was like, "Hey, these guys left your deer head," and so we went and picked it up, but it had been broken too. It was sad. But yeah, those are just a couple stories we've had from selling stuff.
That is beautiful. I also like the back area to the bar as well. I honestly, the first few times I went to Rebar, I didn't even know there was a back area until one of my friends texted me and said he was in the back. And there's all this like unique furniture, and there's like the little fire thing, and it's a really cool hangout because something I noticed is the art. One of the components of all of the bars in the arts district is there's like an outdoor area to it. The other day, we were walking through downtown. It was a weekend, and all these bars I was talking to you about before we started recording, everything was at capacity. And I had realized that half of the bars, half of their capacity is for like the outside. So it's like, because everything was cold, everyone was just like packed into these bars. But it's perfect for like a summer day to hang out there. Yeah,
for sure. Or, while this is, for sure, leading into summer or coming out of summer, it's just great. That's what also is unique down here. There are a lot of patios. And that patio used to be, it actually used to be across the alley too. There used to be a place called the Funk Yard, which is the parking lot behind Rebar. But back in the day, it was a dirt lot that I had built a stage, and we used to have music literally every Friday and Saturday night. That eventually got like shut down by the city, even though I used to pull permits for it weekly, and I did for 3 years, and then one day it wasn't allowed anymore. But so all of that stuff moved, including the sign that says Funk Yard Theater. All that moved in, and what you might not have experienced lately because of the pandemic is all the live music that we have back there. So there's a stage, and all that's starting to come back. We just technically can't advertise it because it's whatever.
The entertainment tax, I know, is something.
No, it's not entertainment. It's because it has to be ambient music because of like whatever. It's just another crazy rule that we live by.
Another hurdle.
Yeah, just another hurdle. But so we're having live music again, and that's pretty exciting. We built a whole new bar out back too to accommodate live music because we think that it's going to come back. That everybody is pent up and they want to come out. They want to. One thing I didn't realize that I missed so much until the pandemic happened was, or 6 months into the pandemic, was live music. I didn't realize how much I appreciated it until I didn't have it. And now that's why we built a bar, and that's why we're going to have, I can tell you now, a lot more live music, some bigger bands playing in the back of Rebar, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, there is. It's going to be like the Roaring 20s. That's one of the similarities that I see. Now, what is Davey's exactly? Obviously, you own it as well. It's something a little bit different. What is it?
So Davey's is a bar. It goes Rebar, and then Coolsville Tattoo, and then Davey's. And Davey's and Rebar's patios connect. So Davey's, we opened Rebar, and we were successful, and we were growing, and we had a lot of parties. People were having birthday parties. But then we got so busy that we couldn't technically even have parties anymore, because it'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't book the whole place for you unless you want to pay a large amount of money to shut it down. So this space came available 2 doors down from us, and I cut a deal with the tattoo shop to take over the patio. And so we built a bar and a restaurant called Davey's. Honestly, before the pandemic, it just functioned on Friday and Saturday nights as a spillover bar for Rebar. And then we would leave it available for parties, so people could have birthday parties and all of that. Well, when that went away, because we weren't allowed to do events anymore, and we don't know when that's coming back really, we decided to kind of finally start building its own identity. And so that's where it's Davey's. It's got the old 1962 Davey's locker sign in it from this old bar that was down on Desert End. That's the original. I literally drug it out of the trash. Talk about a picker. Yeah, sometimes I'm embarrassed by the things I do, but I knew that there was a lot of history there. So we got this sign, dug it out of their dumpster, had it restored in a rat rod style. And now we're turning it more into like a tiki bar, but more of like a dead pirate bar, because Davey's locker means that you're under, you're in you're confined to the sea, under the sea for eternity. So that's what the bar theme is becoming. So, and it's got some amazing new, our bar manager, Cassie, has created all these cocktails that are on tap. So, and that's making us really unique. So, it's doing great. Like I said, it was just our event space, and now it's a separate bar, but it does connect to Rebar, and we share each other's customers, obviously. So
Yeah, a spillover bar that just built its own identity. And the patio, every time you walk by it and on the weekends and Thursdays and Sundays, is full. It's at capacity. Do you share the same chef or the same kitchen?
Yeah. So our head chef Roy we do chicken wings and pizzas and amazing artisan sandwiches. And yeah, so the same menu on both sides, and you can get food literally anywhere on the entire property that comes out of the kitchen that's on Davey's side.
It's beautiful. Yeah, food's very important.
Yeah.
I'm so bullish on the arts district. Recently, as I mentioned in the beginning, you were on the news talking about the food truck park that they wanted to install. What was the reasoning behind not being for it?
Well, for me, it was kind of personal because I had the funk yard, which was literally 2 parcels away from this. This is a dirt lot that we were talking about. So,
and it's pretty small too.
It's very small. Honestly, like myself and other neighbors, we would want the owner of this property to do anything with it. And if they would have said they were going to pave it, we probably would have said, all right, whatever, they could put a morgue there. I don't care. It's just been for years we've dealt with this dirt lot and the building on the corner that have just had announcements of things that were going to happen, and then they just never did. And the phone numbers have sat up there for forever, just collecting leads for new people who want to move into the area. And it's been, in my opinion, it's been a detriment to our area. It's an eyesore. So when they somehow got past planning commission, planning commission said, well, we'll give it to city council to see what they decide. They were going to allow 10 food trucks to basically park there permanently without, my biggest thing is concrete. There wasn't going to be any concrete. There wasn't going to be any power. There wasn't going to be any lighting. There wasn't going to be any bathrooms. There wasn't going to be any seating. So we were just shocked that the city, after spending $100 million to do this one-way couplet project and all of the infrastructure and investment that all of these businesses around here have done, when you have so much concentration of restaurants and bars, each one of us have to spend probably minimum $300,000 up to $1 million for each space to build it out. You have to put in a grease interceptor, a grease trap. You have to put in handicap restrooms. So if you start to think about the Arts District, it's a very valuable asset for the city of Las Vegas. There's only 3 places in the whole county that have that much assets. It's the Strip, which is county, so it doesn't have anything to do with the city. It's Fremont Street, and it's the Arts District. So when you think about how valuable that becomes, and these are all the rules that we all had to play with in terms of putting in grease interceptors, that makes us, it was shocking to think that they would even consider allowing someone to have a dirt lot with a bunch of food trucks on it. We're I've said this since the beginning, we're totally not against the food trucks. I think that there will be a food truck park here. I'd actually support it. I've even talked to some landowners in the area to potentially partner up with it because I think it is a great idea. Technically it wasn't going to be done properly. And the last thing really is a safety issue. You live right near this alley and you see how busy it is. And our whole thing was that there's no entrance on Casino Center side. So all the Uber Eats drivers, and they were saying minimum 500 to 600 a day, would have to pick up in that alley with absolutely no parking. So it just didn't make sense. It'd be like, the example I use is like, no one would ever think if somehow a dirt lot was able to survive in the middle of Fremont Street under the canopy, no one would ever think that you should put a food truck park there that can allow 500 to 600 Uber Eats drivers to try to get into the Fremont Street canopy to pick up their food. I think the Arts District is in its own way becoming a small Fremont Street. It's not like we're ever going to have a canopy or anything, but we need to start paying attention to our pedestrian traffic and make sure that people aren't driving up this alley that just to pick up food. I mean, honestly, Uber Eats drivers, they're incentivized to throw it in parks, run in, where's my food, and get back out because that's how they make their money. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it was lacking infrastructure, and that's really what it came down to.
Yeah, that alley is very tight to begin with, and also Casino Center is pretty tight. And as I mentioned before, Thursday through Sunday, Casino Center is full of cars. Literally, there's sometimes I have to park 2-3 blocks away, even at like 1-2 in the afternoon for the amount of people that come down here. So it's definitely a safety concern, to say the least. And also the spillover for using restrooms and the dirt. There's probably no trash cans. People are gonna have to throw their trash somewhere. Nowhere to sit, really.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Like we're not against it. There's actually a food truck that has now built the infrastructure, and it's attached to its own restaurant, right at You or Me Sushi across from Esther's Kitchen. They have a food truck that they're going to launch pretty soon called Chicago Food, I believe, Chicago Food Truck. And so that's exciting to us because they have a way to have their customers are attached to a bathroom. They've got some seating. They're on concrete. They've got power. They've got a grease interceptor. I mean, they played by the rules, and we want to support that. You know, it would be like me saying I should probably be allowed to have a food truck on the back of my patio if I wanted to give up that space, if I wanted to, right? Because I have all the infrastructure in place, and I have the bathrooms, and I hit capacity. But that just isn't the case with a dirt lot in the middle of potentially the next Fremont Street.
Yeah, I've seen too. One of my buddies that I had on here, George Martinez, runs Raging Tacos, and he's posted up outside of Cerveza a few times. Yeah. But that makes sense because they have the liquor, and then there's the food, and there's also the bathroom attached to it, and he's not blocking the street at all.
Yeah, we don't have any problem with that. We love that model. It made sense, you know, and they're kind of like a sponsor of whatever food truck it is, you know, and they're taking care of it. They've got a trash interceptor, or excuse me, grease interceptor, trash interceptor, trash, you know, so yeah, no, that's amazing. And that's the thing we want. I mean, I want to have more food down here. You know, you live here, but I'm here.
You pretty much live here.
I pretty much live here too. So the more food options, the better. For my own personal taste buds, you know, but it's just got to be done right, and it will be. I think that the examples that were shown, other cities, they're literally a city block. You know, in Portland or San Francisco, there's a city block where they have a stage. They have 2,000 person occupancy. They've got 10 to 20 food trucks. They've got hundreds and hundreds of seats. They've got bathrooms. They've got a little kiddie park. So I think that's what we need, and I think it's coming. And I'll say that, here personally, that I've talked to some property owners and developers to see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, there are a bunch of new things happening. Pauly Shore's comedy store is opening up probably summertime. They've already have like the
mural,
the mural, the marketing. Cool. I heard might be some sort of opera theater that's supposed to come down here, something like that. That's what Chris was it Kristen that said that?
I haven't heard of that. I heard of the jazz club.
Maybe that's what she was talking about.
Yeah, right across the street from there. So right next to Abel Baker.
Yeah, that's what she was talking about. Yeah. Do you think, does the Arts District extend to Commerce Street behind there, right?
Yeah.
Would you consider that the Arts District?
Yeah. So the Arts District is actually 18 blocks. It starts down by City Hall on Main Street, and it kind of works its way up, all the way up Commerce, up to Imperial. It cuts off here at Imperial. So technically, Abel Baker wouldn't be considered the Arts District. But what I always say is, and I started my first business outside of after I made that film I was talking about, I opened an art house theater called Theater 7 over on 3rd Street. Technically, it was 50 feet from the edge of the Arts District, but I'm into marketing, and I was like, I'm just going to call it the Arts District because otherwise you won't know where I am. So that's what we always say is it's a weird 18 blocks. It cuts off this direction, that direction, but we're all Arts District. And so, that new comedy club, it's actually, it's considered the gateway district. So when you see the new arches on Las Vegas Boulevard under the Stratosphere, that is a start of the gateway district. So it goes gateway district, arts district, and then I guess technically downtown or whatever. So that's kind of how it works. But we're all encompassing. We want everybody to pretty much say, arts district, but the breweries will start to market their own way. They'll start to say that they're in Brewery Row. The antique stores, they market their own way. They say that they're in Antique Alley. So I don't know. We all play off of each other, and it's harmonious and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is a nice cohesive unit. We need to get a few more residential places down here.
For sure.
I have to say living here is amazing. Sometimes it's a little loud, but that comes with the territory and it's fun and the community that's being built. Because when I talked to Sam, I asked him when he was on this podcast, I was like, we need a grocery store down here. Like, can we get a grocery store, please? I know he's on that planning commission.
Yeah.
And he said they just need a few more residents to live down here. It has to do with like residents per square foot capita or whatever metrics that they use.
Yeah. Like White Cross Market actually tried for a while. They opened up with a new market and it's right there, and it didn't survive, unfortunately. It had great sandwiches. It had an amazing beer selection, but it just didn't have the foot traffic. I mean, could it, if it reopened exactly the same right now? I think maybe it probably could,
Especially with the new apartments that are being refurbished by Sky, I think Sky Management, I believe, the one that's right on Industrial, 3-story building. Oh. They're supposed to open up in a few months as well. So that's another 40-ish apartment units that'll be down here. And everyone who I meet who moves down here has like a purpose, but they're always the same. It's like, I want to be in a collaborative area with young entrepreneurs for the most part. I would say the average age of share is maybe mid-30s. Like, so it's like everyone has that same mindset that they want to come down here and build. And that's something that Vegas has been missing for such a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're like the backbone or I always go back to the word community. I think Vegas was always kind of lacking community, at least in terms of young entrepreneurship. Besides everything that Tony Shea and his group did, which really got a lot of things going and got a lot of attention for our city. But yeah, that's one thing that we've always been lacking, and now it feels like it's when it comes down to it, we're a very small city. And we all really know each other, but now we're all working together. It feels like, at least in this area, for the greater good.
Is there anything in the arts district that you would like to see be built, or you think that it's missing that would add something to the area?
I just think it all comes down to artists. It's the arts district, and it needs to have more art subsidized housing for artists. Especially artists who have been here for a while. It needs it's housing and it's help for artists. And is it art galleries? We're proving that art galleries can survive. There's 3 of them now, right in the area that are new, besides the ones that have always been at Arts Factory. There's Recycled Propaganda, which I'm wearing his piece here.
Shout out.
Yeah. There's Priscilla Fowler, and then Conrad West, who just opened. The thing that's unique about these art galleries is that they're working their art galleries regular hours, and that's what I've always said. Artists have always complained that they can't afford to live here or they can't afford to work here. And that's a lot of them because they were kind of doing it. They weren't necessarily working and running a store. And I know that sounds like a lot, but painting and running a store actually sells a lot of art. And so we're proving that it can be done. But there may be some, subsidies would help with artists to be able to work here and live here. And besides that, I think that a lot of businesses are kind of taking what we've done and what I've always tried to encourage. I was the Arts District Board President a couple years ago for a few years, and we were trying to start a program where every business would put obviously local art or hire a local artist, but also like an interchangeable art gallery. So even though the artists can't necessarily afford to have an art gallery in the area, the good news is that there's way more people, way more customers that would have come to their art gallery where we were 10 years ago. And they'll spend money. They've had a couple drinks, and the artists can still survive and be a part of the arts district if the business owners will allow them to have small art galleries inside of their bars, restaurants, and antique stores.
Yeah, it's kind of like a sublease unit or like a co-space kind of thing, like what you see with the antique mall, where it's just one giant area, but there's multiple antique stores kind of inside of it,
exactly.
like the galleries.
Yeah,
that's really important. Are you familiar with Graffiti Park?
I mean, I've heard of it.
I had Daniel on here. He's the co-founder. Basically, it's like an artist collective of 150 artists. Right now, they've been doing murals at different schools and some private ones. But his goal is to buy. There's like an area off of Commerce in Charleston. I guess it's like a big, I don't know, a few acre property back there somewhere. And he wants to eventually buy it and create this like full encompassing artist chill area where they could practice and they can have murals, and like there's some other facets to it as well. It's not necessarily just like graffiti. It's just, that's the name for it. It's all just artists and collectives, and he's working pretty hard on it. And something like that would be so unique to the arts district, to Vegas, that I hope that something like that can happen, because it's different from just like a bar and an antique store.
For sure.
It's like a hot spot for artists, because Vegas has to kind of bridge itself off of this tourism dependency. So if we're a fast growing city right now.
Yeah.
We've been number 2 for the last few years in terms of new residents moving here. So these new residents are going to want some sort of attraction. When you live here for so long, you eventually grow bored of the Strip. You're like, how long can we do it? Or you get past a certain age, and you're like, I'm over it. I've done this so many times. But art is something that is all encompassing of all ages. So to add these new features and to see different young entrepreneurs pursue different endeavors like this, it makes you very inspired and hopeful for the area.
Yeah, for sure. And that sounds like something that like even myself might want to get involved in. It sounds like if the space is big enough, it would make sense to have potentially a stage and live music, live painting, and even the food truck parks that we're talking about. So this could be what makes our food truck park unique. So, I mean, is there an aspect of food trucks attached to that? Or
I'll send you his information. Cool. He's actually collabing with Sky Management, or set it up, and he might do some murals for some of these buildings down here. But they've been all around with different schools and private businesses, and I think somebody who works for them actually just painted something recently right here on Casino Center in Charleston. Do you see there's like a fresh mural out here?
Yeah, the one on the corner.
Yeah, that just happened.
Las Vegas, make Las Vegas beautiful again.
Yeah, it just happened like a day or two ago.
Yeah.
I walked up and I was like, what you doing, man? He was like, I just got bored. It looked, it was just white. It needed a new fresh. And I was just like, adventurous, man.
And that's without owner permission.
Yeah, he just.
So I mean, listen.
He just went out and did it. It looks better though, I have to say.
I mean, because I've seen that building get tagged over and over again, and then they come and paint over it, and then it gets tagged again. And so the thing is, if somebody, I mean, I'm not for that, right? I can't technically be for or against that, but. I mean, if somebody, I am definitely against absentee landlords. So if somebody has a building and you're able to spend 3 days putting a mural on it, I mean, and you don't notice, like, I'm sorry, and you don't have anybody watching it, and you don't have security, like, by all means, and there's been battles where artists have fought that when something gets painted over, that's their claim and that's their property, and they've won good money for that. So just something else that he should research.
Smart. Yeah, I'll have to reach out to him. I forgot. I have his Instagram written down somewhere. It seems like there's a lot of property owners down here who've been just buying the land and kind of holding and not contributing to the area. Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's just it's the nature of the beast. I mean, a lot of them are called holdings companies because they just sit on stuff. They hold a lot of property, and maybe not just here, other cities. They might not even live here. It might be overseas money, and they just wait until the time is right. With areas like this that the city of Las Vegas has developed, or put so much money into development, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, the developers landowners will hate to hear this, but I believe that there should be some types of penalties to either force them to do something with their land, or you develop it or sell it, because this area is possibly the hottest area in all of Las Vegas. And it's sad to think that people who own land won't allow someone to turn it into a parking lot when we desperately need parking. I've talked to many landowners around here trying to convince them, hey, I want to sublease this from you. I'm not at the point in my life where I can buy $1 million properties, but I can come up with maybe $50,000 to $100,000 to pave a property and turn it into something that's going to help our community. So I've tried that, and the truth of it is, a lot of landowners in the downtown area work with a tow truck company to actually tow vehicles on events like First Friday. This First Friday, the tow truck companies will be out in force. It's a terrible thing that happens. They tow real Las Vegans who get their cars. I was featured. I recorded a thing in like 2008. Fox 5 picked it up, and then everybody picked it up. But I went down to a tow truck company when over 50 cars were towed from a First Friday event, and all of those people, a lot of those people are artists. They're struggling. They don't know where their title is. You have to pay cash. There's a huge scam happening in the area, and it has to do with absentee landlords and tow truck companies, because people park on the dirt at First Friday and then they get towed. And they say that there's signs, but I mean, they're so small, there's no lights. Mm-hmm. So anyways, yeah, that's a huge problem. If I was ever, I consider getting into politics at some point. One of the things that if I ever did, I would focus on, tow truck companies would be trying to keep me out of office, because it'd be one of the things. It's one of my pet peeves, is local Las Vegas, especially artists in the arts district, being towed from absentee landlords who have dirt lots on First Friday. So
it's predatory practices. Yeah. It's unfortunate. It's cool to see a lot of local owners though combat certain things like this. Kristen's involved in Loco Las Vegas, which is the food delivery app, to help fight some of the high commission fees that these apps take, and then bring money back to local drivers. And for you to notice that's something I didn't even know existed.
Next time you're walking around First Friday, look at all the tow trucks, and every one of them's towing. The other thing they do is they just run it up the alley. They run it out of sight, and then they go get another one and another one and another one. Honestly, they were doing it right where we sit today. About 3 years ago, they did it right here on this lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. First Friday. Speaking of First Friday, the first real one is this Friday.
Yeah.
Do you have any expectations? What do you think there'll be any differences, or like how important is First Friday to the Arts District?
First Friday has always been important to the Arts District. It's been around for 18 years. Cindy Funkhauser started it just right across the street from where we sit today. I've always felt it as marketing for the area businesses. A lot of businesses, antique stores and stuff, they don't want to be open and they close. And I always try to convince them, you should be open, because these people that come to First Friday, they'll eventually come back throughout the month, So it's going to be great having First Friday open again. The unfortunate thing is that most of the bars and restaurants in the area are already hitting capacity at 50% on Fridays and Saturday nights. So I don't know how much of a larger, number or of people that we can get in. But it's just great to hear that it's getting back to kind of normal. First Friday is a great event where you can walk around, you can space from each other, social distance, hang out with a group of friends. And again, there'll probably be over 40 food trucks in the area, all condensed in one area where they can all share. So it's a great thing. It's one of the things. It's the longest running monthly community event in Las Vegas history. It's gone over for 18 years now, except for the past year that it's almost a year that it's been closed.
And they had like a digital version of it, I guess, just to keep the number going. And it was cool to see. I mean, it sheds a lot of light on the different businesses, but it's not the same as in person. But there's a lot of excitement. I've seen a lot of the flyers, and you have to have like an invitation, and how they're going to regulate it. I'm really unsure about it, but it just makes me excited to go out again. That's one of the reasons why I moved down here. And I didn't realize the Arts District was so busy, but even in July when this building first opened, Arts District was packed, like no matter what. I think it has to do with, like, as you mentioned before, there's no gaming, so it feels a little bit different. I hope that there is no gaming that ever does come move down here.
Well, there's gaming, but it's not really, there's no PTs. And not to say there's anything wrong with PTs, but everywhere else besides the three areas I talked about, the Strip, Fremont Street, and the Arts District, everywhere else most bars are going to have gaming. So they all have to have 1,000-foot separation. So you can't create an environment like we have here. That's why we're so unique to Las Vegas, because if gaming started in one area, if somebody did get gaming, then it would be like, oh, you can't have gaming from another 1,000 feet and stuff. So it just doesn't make sense in our area. These are locals who maybe they work in the casino and they don't smoke. They don't want smoking. They don't want gambling. Maybe they're blackjack dealers. The last thing they want to do is go to a casino in their free time, So they come to places where you don't smoke and you don't gamble. And that's how we are too. We built our businesses. I always say, if you want to do your own bar, your own restaurant, do it the way that you want it to be, because you have to spend the rest of your life in there. So you might as well base it on what you like. And that's what I did with Rebar. I always loved antiques and flipping stuff. And I just, after I was thinking, when I get done with cancer, I just want to drink a beer and sell a beer to the guy across from me and talk about antiques. And that was my dream. And then it turned into a whole monster. So
yeah, dude, you have an amazing bar. Thank you for the non-alcoholic beverages. Oh yeah, I'm excited for these. Tell me a little bit about them, and what's it like selling non-alcoholic beer at a bar? It's actually it's crazy. I think that Rebar has the most non-alcoholic beverages probably in the state. We've got at any given time over 10 different beers. So like things like, you've probably heard of Lagunitas hop water. Lagunitas has a new one called Lagunitas IPNA. But then we've got other stuff that we bring in. We actually have it FedExed in because it's non-alcoholic. There's a brewery in San Diego called Bravis that we bring multiple flavors in from them. And we also have all of the mocktails. We literally have a mocktail section that started this January, dry January. And then we just left it on the menu because it was so successful. The great thing, in my opinion, about having non-alcoholic beverages in the bar is that we already have a very diverse crowd. But now we bring in people who might not want to go to a bar, even though they want to hang out with their friends. They don't want to go, honestly, because they just don't want to get into why they don't want to drink. So we have a way at Rebar. You can obviously order a non-alcoholic beer, which somebody might notice that you're drinking, hop water or whatever. But honestly, it tastes delicious. Sometimes I don't want to drink, and I love hop water or these other types of beers. And then the other thing is, you can order a mocktail and nobody knows any different. Yeah. You can be with all your friends and you just, it's not that big of a deal, but it is for some people, and some people don't want to talk about it. So, we give them that option. I applaud you for doing that. It is a hassle at times, because I've been sober, like we were saying, almost 3 years now, and people call you out. They'll always think like, why are you not drinking, pussy? Like, what's wrong with you? And then other times I'm just like, oh, it's such a long story. I don't feel like explaining anything. Right. So I usually would get soda water with a lemon in it. I'm like, I could feel like I'm part of the party, but to include sober people to the party, to bring that different, unique crowd to it is important, because there is a large sobriety movement within the millennials and Gen Z generations. Not sure why. Maybe because of the media. There's more media attention surrounding like DUIs and all these different things that happen to it. But Yeah, thank you for that.
No, and here's a secret. This has been this way since we opened 5 years ago. You can get a club soda and with a lime or whatever, and it's zero. It's no charge. So, and that's our little secret. We just give it to you.
Boom! You guys heard it here first. I have one final question for you before we get out of here. What does Las Vegas mean to you?
Oh man, Las Vegas is. I don't know. It's everything to me. It's literally everything. Every project that I do and every project that I've been involved in, like I literally feel like I can die now and know that I gave it my all. So I feel like I did that first of all, it all started with the film that I made about Caravaggio, who was an artist and a painter and lived in downtown Las Vegas. When I was done with that, I felt like if I died, I'd at least know that I gave it my all. Then I did that with Atomic Liquors. And I've done that with Rebar and Davey's. And I have a new project coming up soon that is very important to Las Vegas. And I'm just honored that I was asked to be brought in on this project as an investor. And I'll be feet on the ground actually on this project, which could be the biggest project in Las Vegas history. It has to do with the Hunt Ridge. So I'm going to be involved in the Hunt Ridge Theater.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah. And I'm going to be in the building, and I'm going to be able to work with people like how I've done with my other projects and including Atomic and Rebar in the same way with the press. And so, just being asked to be involved in that, the person, Jay Dapper, who did this who asked me to get involved and invest, he didn't have to do that. He didn't need the money. It wasn't about the money. It was about starting a partnership. So the good news is I feel like once I get through with that project, again, it's going to be another thing that I feel like I've at least put my mark on Las Vegas to make it a better place.
Oh, couldn't have said any better. Where do I send all of the listeners and viewers to follow you or get involved with Rebar Davies?
I mean, honestly, just come in and support us. Come to the Arts District, not just us. I'm all about the Arts District. I started on Fremont Street. Now I'm in the Arts District, and then soon I'll be over at the Hunt Ridge. So just come to any of those places.
Come support us. Fastest growing area in the city. Derek, thank you for coming on here. I was looking forward to this for such a long time. I knew you were a vocal figure in the Arts District, and now I completely understand why. Your passion is profound for the city. It's amazing.
Thank you, man.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time.